Hello friends, Chris from doWhileLoops here, and in this video we're going to be taking a look at guitar capos, how to use them, why to use them, as well as a little bit of that chord magic that's happening behind the scenes when you do use them. Let's hit it. Okay, so first off, what is a capo? Well, there's not much to it really. It looks like this, and it's basically a small little clamp that's designed to go on your guitar and act as a fake finger. So check this out. If I take my finger and I lay it across all the strings like so on a given fret, that's called a bar, B-A-R-R-E. And you may have heard of bar chords before. That's where this comes from. Now the catch here is that as I'm barring, I'm losing a lot of finger mobility on the rest of my other fingers because one of them is basically clamped to the fretboard like so. And that's where the capo comes in. You can set this up as like a fake finger so the rest of your real fingers are free to move around the fretboard. Okay, so how do we use a capo? Well, it's pretty simple really. There's a few different designs of capos. This one here is spring-loaded, but there are some that have screws on them, etc. Regardless of whatever design you do have, in order to use one, all you got to do is squeeze the capo, or unscrew it, whatever you got. Select a fret. I'm going to use the 5th fret here. Slide it over, and you clamp it on. Now I have a capo on my guitar, and when you're done, you just reverse the process and take it off. Simple as that. Okay, so let's talk about why you would use one of these things. Well, the short answer is to make guitar playing easier. What a capo does is allow you to use the same chord shapes that you use down here on the guitar in what they call the open position anywhere on the neck. And here's a demo of what I mean. So here's a fairly standard C major, A minor, G major chord progression on the guitar without a capo down here in open position. Here we go. Glorious, right? Well, now, if I take a capo and I put it on the 5th fret, just for example, boink, all of a sudden I can use the same chord shapes relative to this capo. So I pretend like this is the end of the guitar rather than this being the end of the guitar. I use the same C chord shapes, and boom, all of a sudden I'm playing in a different key. Here we go. There you go. So this allows you to play in all kinds of different keys on the guitar without having to contort your fingers or learn any new guitar chord shapes. And we'll talk about why this is actually working on the guitar shortly, but if you're a singer-songwriter and you're trying to juggle singing, remembering lyrics, moving between chord shapes, etc., a capo can really help simplify your guitar playing so it's one less thing to worry about. Quick note here. If you want to take your playing to the next level and you're looking for somebody to help you get there, I've got over 20 years of playing and teaching experience on trumpet, guitar, piano, songwriting, theory, and a whole host of other musical subjects. I'd love to help out. Send me a message on my website. The link is here and in the description. Mention code CLEM20 and get 20% off your first lesson. Now back to the show. Okay, so let's talk about how this is actually working. So if you look at the guitar and on each string, there's only part of it that's actually making any sound, and that would be the part between here, which is called the bridge, and here, which is called the nut. And this is called the speaking length of the string. The rest of the string doesn't make too much noise. You'll get a little bit like down there past the nut, and that can be cool, but in most situations it's not super useful. Now, when you're playing chords down here in the open position, the strings that you're not pushing down are ringing open. Here's an example of a C chord. We've got a couple open strings in there. We've got the high E, and we got the G string, like that. Now here's the trick on the guitar. That's that chord shapes are movable. Your C chord down here can really be thought of as just a chord shape. It's basically just a known way to arrange your fingers on the fretboard so that it sounds nice. Now, if I fret the same C chord a different way, like this, instead of 3, 2, 1 here, I switch it to using my pinky, 3rd, and 2nd finger. And then if I lay my index finger over the guitar nut just for demonstration purposes, you can see that this whole shape then indeed becomes movable. I can move this entire rig up and down the guitar neck and put my index finger over any fret, and it will sound good as long as my fingers are relative to the new end of the string. Here's an example on the 5th fret like this. Here's an example of the 3rd fret like this. Now that's cool. In this case, my index finger is creating the end of the string, but if you're using a capo, that will create the end of the string and leave the rest of your hand and your brain free to do other things. And by the way, you can transfer more chord shapes than just the C chord up and down the guitar neck. This is actually the basis for what they call the caged system, which is a great way to understand how the guitar fretboard really works. I've got a video on this topic that I'll link here and in the description, and it really is one of the best investments of time that you can make in really understanding how the guitar works. Okay, so when would you not want to use a capo? We have to understand, as soon as you clamp a capo on your fretboard, you basically eliminated part of your guitar. You can see I'm not really getting any kind of usable sound out of that part. Now, if you're playing a complex song and you actually need some of the notes down there, you might want to think about skipping the capo entirely and just using bar chords instead. The second thing is tuning. As soon as you put a capo on, things tend to wander around a little bit tuning-wise. This can be an issue when you're playing live, so just keep that in mind. A lot of it's down to actually your specific guitar, so you just have to experiment around with it a little bit and see how it goes. Okay, so now for the age-old question. Is using a guitar capo considered a crutch? Well, it depends on who you ask, but in my opinion, a capo is just another tool in your toolbox that you can choose to use or not use. It can help you out in certain situations. It can also hinder you in certain situations. If it's not your goal to become the most ripping guitar player in the world, maybe you're concentrated on singing or playing other instruments, then a capo is a great tool to use to take what you already know on the guitar and be able to play it in other keys more easily. On the other hand, if it is your goal to become the most ripping guitar player in the world, then I highly suggest that you take the time to learn the cage system and how bar chords actually work on the guitar and be able to maneuver around the fretboard using those without using a capo. Alright, that's it, my friends. Everything you need to know about guitar capos and then some. I appreciate you watching today's video. Please drop a like if you got something out of it. And if you're new here, please subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon. You'll be the first one to know and it don't cost nothing. In any case, I'm Clemons from doWhileLoops. Take it easy and enjoy making music.